As most of you know, for over 15 years my colleagues and I have been teaching a simple concept we call 100-0, 100% responsibility, zero excuses. In companies all over the world such as Qantas, Intact Insurance, Lockheed Martin, RBC and Washington Gas, they are using the 100-0 to drive commitment with their people. But what does that really mean? How do we know when we are stepping up and being 100-0 versus when we are stepping back towards what I call 0-100? Well, I'm Dr. John Izzo, and I'm in the business of conversations that make the difference. And today I'd like to have a conversation with you about 6 critical differences between stepping up and stepping back. In our Stepping Up program and the talks that I give all over the world, and we've done with over 150 companies, we have something we call the 100-0 continuum, a way of helping each of us see what it means to be 100-0 versus 0-100. 6 simple choices that we can make at every moment. Choice number 1. The choice to step up by being positive and optimistic versus the choice to step back by being negative and pessimistic. Research shows that just being seen as a positive, optimistic person is a very good predictor of being admired at work, and LinkedIn found the second biggest gripe we have about our colleagues at work is people who are negative and complain. So every time we make the choice to be positive and optimistic, we're stepping up. Whenever we make the choice to be negative and pessimistic, we're stepping back to 0-100. Choice number 2, to be an initiator, not a victim. That means always asking, what can you do about something, instead of sitting around and complaining about what others need to do about something. We know we're being a victim when we spend most of our time talking about they should do this, I would do this if they would only do that. So think about every day, I'm stepping up when I'm deciding to be an initiator and say, what can I do? I'm stepping back to 0-100 when I'm sitting around worrying about what others should do. Choice number 3. I'm stepping up and being 100-0 focusing on what I can do instead of what I can't do. As we like to say in our workshops, we always have a list of things we can't do or barriers that would get in the way of us doing things. Like, if I had more resources, more support, more time, and so on. But 100-0 always means asking, what can I do with what I have, instead of what would I do if I had this or if I had that. So we know we're stepping up and being 100-0 when we're talking about what we can do with what we have, instead of what we would do or can't do because we don't have enough resources, enough time, or whatever we think we need to step up. Choice number 4. We're stepping up and being 100-0 when we decide to speak up constructively instead of staying quiet. 100-0 means we speak up and bring our ideas and we raise issues in a constructive way instead of staying silent or speaking up in a complaining way. In fact, all of us know people at work who, instead of raising issues, simply sit around and complain about them later among their colleagues instead of raising the issue in a public way. But we step up and are 100-0 when we speak up constructively instead of tuning out and staying quiet. Now, choice number 5 is to listen in instead of tuning out feedback from others. Stepping up means, and being 100-0 means, that we're listening to feedback from others. We're taking 100% responsibility to listen and learn instead of tuning out feedback or the ideas from others. When we're stepping up, we're interested in learning. When we're stepping back, we're interested in being right. So one way to think about it is, when I'm stepping up, I'm really open to feedback and listening to ideas and learning from others. When I'm stepping back to 0-100, I'm more interested in being right than in learning. Now finally, 100-0 means to put the goal first and to be collaborative, rather than stepping back and being 0-100, which is focusing on me and my function and my role and my part of the business instead of the bigger picture. 100% responsibility means focusing on getting the goal accomplished by collaborating with others. It means, for example, if someone else in the company lets you down or doesn't come through, instead of complaining about them, you take 100% responsibility for the customer or the problem, saying, well, let me put the goal first instead of worrying about my function or how I look. So this is what it looks like. Now, one thing you don't want to do is be 50-50. Sometimes stepping up, sometimes not. So people look at you and think, well, sometimes he's a victim, sometimes he's an initiator, sometimes she speaks up, but sometimes she stays quiet. Sometimes he's in can-do mode, but often he's in can't-do mode. I've often thought that being 50-50 is like those leftovers you made last week and put in the fridge in the Tupperware. And every time you've opened the fridge in the last week, two thoughts went through your mind when you saw it. Not good enough to eat, not bad enough to throw out. And in many ways, you don't want to be that at work. You don't want your boss to look at you and think, she or he is not good enough to promote, not bad enough to fire. You want to be 100-0 all the time. Now, if you're interested in using the 100-0 in your company or finding a way to integrate this kind of thinking with your people, please contact us. Meanwhile, I have a simple assignment for you. Put the continuum on your desk. And over the next week, 2 months, just look at it and every moment ask yourself, am I being 0-100? Am I being 50-50? Or am I being right now 100-0? I'm Dr. John Izzo. Keep on leading.